So, one of the women involved with the protest that went on at the Wii Spa recently came out and did a video on her own YouTube channel and then was later interviewed by the Daily Mail. She's keeping her identity secret for obvious reasons, but one of the things she said during the Daily Mail interview was that she's concerned she could lose her job, and Antifa has obviously demonstrated that they're prone to being violent in this issue. The thing that occurs to me is as I listen to her description of the people in question who caused this incident, they sound exactly like the descriptions that you typically see, in photographs that you typically see of what, members of Antifa look like. And colored hair and tattoos and such doesn't necessarily mean that you're a member of Antifa or even involved in activism, but I think it's an interesting coincidence that three people basically decided to show up at a spa, specifically create an incident where they know people are going to be uncomfortable, refuse to do anything to stop those people from being uncomfortable, and then show up in force to beat the shit out of anybody who didn't like it. The thing that kind of angers me about this is even from the pro-trans perspective, this is actually an incident that is going to incite and create transphobia. This is not going to make transphobia go away, and if anything, it just caused more public outrage on this issue. These three people took it upon themselves, essentially, to create a situation that is exactly like what the right wing said would happen in the event of, allowing trans people into bathrooms. So they just go and create this situation themselves, just so they'll have an excuse to then invite people, from Antifa to come to beat up and terrorize anybody who didn't like what they did. So this isn't good for trans people, and it's not good for Antifa as an organization if they're really supposed to be about justice in any way, shape, or form. They created an incident solely so that they could show up and beat up anybody who didn't like what they did. I'll let you watch the video now. I'm going to provide the full unedited version of it at the end of this video, and I'll provide a link to it along with the Daily Mail article on the topic. I don't push anybody else's spin on things, including my own in this instance. You can just watch the raw footage and decide for yourself. But it's my feeling, distinctly, that Antifa created this situation specifically so they'd have an opportunity to, engage in violence and terrorism against people who oppose their ideology.
We got into the hot tub, my little 6-year-old daughter and I, and we were having a great time. We were in there with other women when a person, I guess, with a penis and a beard came over with two girlfriends. They appeared to me to be lesbians with tattoos and colored hair, and they appeared, the three of them, to be kind of progressive activist types. They came in with kind of an entitled attitude, and they sat down on the edge of the hot tub where I was with my daughter, my 6-year-old daughter, who was naked. And the person with the penis sat down on the edge of the hot tub with just fully on display, with his genitals fully on display. And so me and the other women in the hot tub kind of looked each other in the eye, and we just kind of made this face like, what the heck? And we're motioning to my daughter, I'm motioning to my daughter, and the women in the hot tub are like, I know, what the hell? And we were just uncomfortable, and I was trying to block my daughter from seeing the penis on the person with the 5 o'clock shadow, who was not trying to look like a woman at all. And we got out of the hot tub, and I walked away, and I thought I spoke to a different woman, and this other woman said, they spoke to this person about covering up, but they refused, and I felt kind of horrified. I could see the older Korean ladies peeking out from behind the kind of panels of the showers, trying to cover themselves up with a towel. All the women were uncomfortable. No one wanted to say anything. Everyone in LA is pretty progressive. I'm a registered Democrat. I've been to gay pride. I have no problem with gay people. I have no problem with trans people. This is different. This is different. My daughter is 6 years old, and she was like nude, and this person wasn't making any attempt to look like a woman whatsoever. They walked in with the most entitled attitude, almost like spreading their legs on purpose, with these two other very progressive, activisty looking women into a Korean spot. It's really, really, really Korean too. They didn't care about making the old Korean ladies uncomfortable. They just walked in almost hoping someone would say something. So
now, if you're new to my channel and you haven't watched any of the video of what took place afterwards, the violence that she's discussing is very real. Antifa showed up in force, isolated anybody who was taking video that wasn't friendly to them, and pounded on them. They beat up Christian groups that showed up. They beat up anybody that was basically there to protest. So, kind of like Derek Jensen said in my recent conversation with him, what they're doing is sending a message that men should be allowed to expose themselves to 6-year-old girls, and if you don't like it, we're going to beat you up. Way to come out on the side of pedophilia. Way to come out on the side of, exposing yourself without consent of those you're exposing yourself in front of. So I want to say one more thing about this. If you're a member of Antifa and you're watching this, when you did this, you incited anger and hatred against trans people. And when a trans person finds themselves in a situation where they're being attacked or discriminated against or killed because of what you did, you're not going to be there to protect them. You're not going to be there to in any way be able to stop what's coming to them. So if this is really all about your self-righteous crusade to help trans people, I don't think you really thought this through. I actually think you're all a bunch of fucking idiots. And you're never very effective against anybody you don't outnumber 10-1. This is eventually going to come around to bite you in the ass. Because there's going to be a lot more Kyle Rittenhouses than there are people like you. Thanks for listening.